You're watching the Adrian Bauer Project. Hello. Many thanks for choosing to click on my thumbnail and to watch my content. Very much appreciated as always. Okay, see from today's video, doing a book review, which I haven't done for quite a while. And obviously, as you've seen from the thumbnail, that today's subject for my plain talking reviews are Wheels of Steel, the explosive early years of new wave of British heavy metal, and This Means War, the sunset years of new wave of British heavy metal, both written by Martin Popoff. Now, these two books both go with his other book, Smoking Valves, Headbanger's Guide to 900 N.W.O.B.M records. I have done a review on this book already. If you'd like to look through my list on book reviews, that is there. But all put together, they make a nice little collection. But like I say, it's these two books that I'm going to be reviewing today. So, first one up is going to be Wheels of Steel, the explosive early years of the new wave of British heavy metal, or N.W.O.B.M for short. So, this book, it does start from the early 70s. Now, why Martin does this is because he wants to sort of give you a little flavour of how the rock music scene, metal music scene, call it what you will, was going up until the early days of N.W.O.B.M. Plus as well. There are quite a few of the new wave of British heavy metal bands that actually formed in the mid-70s. If you think about Iron Maiden, they started, the very first got together in 1975. So you've got that, plus you've got bands as well that were around that area. Motorhead get looked into the N.W.O.B.M, Judas Priest do, bands like Magnum do. So, you know, he was taking it from there just to give you a flavour of how it was up until then. Loads and loads of information in this book. All the usual suspects are there. You know, there are mentions of other bands that are a little more less known. I do like Martin's books. Very thorough on his subject as well. The only little minus I've got about this book is when he's writing quotes from people who he's interviewed, he's written as though you know, you are listening to the person talking. Now, what I mean by that is they'll start a sentence and then they'll sort of cut off and then say something else. We all do it. You know, you say something like, "Oh, I was going down to shops the other day and, well, you know, I was going down there and I took the right turn and blah blah blah," that kind of thing. And I find that a little off-putting. I don't know if I can find a little example of that. You'll not be able to find one now. Yeah, this one here, where he's interviewing Jimmy Bain of Wild Horses. He goes, they quite didn't know where it was going to go or how far it would go, but they kind of had this. There was a kind of optimism in London, especially. Now, I don't know, is that going to pick it up there? So you've got three little full stops there, and I found that a little bit off-putting. Okay, that's how people talk, you know, and they do it, and you know, you just go with it. But when you're writing it down in a book, I would have thought you've sort of, you know, condensed it and made it more easy flowing. It probably sounded a good idea on paper, and he wanted to get it more or less exactly how they said it. But I found that a little off-putting. I'd have sooner he'd have, you know, made it more concise and got rid of that gap. So that's the only little tick in the con box out for this book. One thing that did surprise me was the amount of bands or amount of musicians that said, "Oh, we weren't N.W.O.B.M. Oh, we're not. We don't want anything to do with that." You know, the main culprit there obviously is Def Leppard. Joe Elliott, I think from day one, oh, we're not a N.W.O.B.H.M band, we're not a N.W.O.B.H.M band, without totally forgetting that if it wasn't for the new wave of British heavy metal, they'd have probably done that one album and then disappeared into oblivion or doing shelf stacking like I do. But it wasn't just them, there are quite a few new wave of British heavy metal bands that didn't want anything to do with it. Algie Ward from Tank, for starters, he didn't want absolutely nothing to do with new wave of British heavy metal because he came from a punk background. They came sort of later on, I think it was 83, wasn't it? When they did the 82, 83, when they did their first album. And he was adamant they were not new wave of British heavy metal at all. I think the Brabs brothers were sort of agreeing with him as well. So there were quite a few musicians in here that I was surprised didn't want anything to do with the movement, but it was just a name that the music papers came up with, wasn't it? So it just gave a little bit of a ring fence for that kind of band. But there were bands in the new wave British heavy metal that were so polar opposite to each other, as in the style of the music that they played, that it was just a convenient term of reference, really. So This Means War. This is the Sunset Years. This is the follow-up to that book. So this goes up to around, I think it's 1982. This one goes up to 1984. Was it 1982? It might be 1980, 81, I think. This goes up to 1984 because there is a big debate, people who follow N.W.O.B.H.M of when it finished. Some people say N.W.O.B.H.M was all over and done with by the end of 1980. Some people say no, it was 1982. That's when it were all finished. Martin's going with how I would have gone with it, by saying the N.W.O.B.H.M scene sort of fizzled out by 84. That's when you were starting to get thrash bands in, like Metallica, Anthrax. Of course, you got the burgeoning hair metal scene as well in America with Quiet Riot and Motley Crue. So for me, that's when the N.W.O.B.H.M as a movement sort of fizzled out, but it didn't go away. It sort of changed and morphed as all music scenes do. So he's going into detail a lot of bands in here as well, including you've got bands like Budgie that sort of were around in the 70s but got lumped in. We're going through to bands that from my area, Savage, Witchfind, all through that, right up until the late 80s. I think it's when I think he's taking it as Iron Maiden's Power Slave album was the big signal that's saying, okay, all that's kind of over and done with. A lot of the the better known bands like Saxon had changed their style. They admit it is the wrong thing to do, but they changed their style, aiming towards America, where a lot of other bands were starting to aim towards America as well, trying to crack the American market. But again, very well written, very thorough, very precise, lots of interviews in here. It's carried over that way that I did have a grumble with as well. Out of the two books, I enjoyed this one more than this one. Don't know why. The really early years, I enjoyed that one more, but this is still a fantastic book, fantastic pair of books. If you can get hold of them, I'd say grab them now, because I'm not sure how long these are going to be in print for. I know when I got these, I can't remember which bookstore it was I got them from now. It was online, and I think I got them for Christmas, but I think Claire said with the last couple that they had in, so might be a little hard to get. I don't know. Have a look on Amazon, she'll be able to get them. But if you're into heavy metal, if you're only just getting into heavy metal, if you're young, these are great starting points for you, because if you're getting into your Metallicas now and all your Anthraxes and all your power metal, European power metal, and you want to know where it all began, these two books are great starting points. A lot of information, a lot of albums that you could go out and look for. And like I say, along with this book as well, you can get over this book. This goes into all the single releases and album releases of the new wave of British heavy metal era. So if you're new into metal, these are an absolute Bible for you. If you love this area of music like I do, definitely must have books, these. So with that in mind, I'll put that one down there because, like I say, I've already reviewed that. There are a couple of bits in here that, I wouldn't have agreed on, but, it's down to the author, isn't it? There was that little con I mentioned earlier on, which did sort of grate on me a little bit, but, you get over it. So, again, for these two books, absolutely fantastic books, full of information. Go out and grab them if you can. And I give both of these books 4.5 Evil Ednas. Many thanks for watching. Please remember to subscribe to my channel and to ring the little notification bell.